Well, you get a special late night video tonight because I couldn't go to sleep. So apparently Ted Cruz was drummed out of a restaurant with his wife tonight because anti-Kavanaugh protesters, because apparently he's friends with Kavanaugh or he's a Republican or whatever. The group that drummed him out put up a little Twitter box or whatever with their video. They're called Smash Racism DC. They want to let you know they weren't paid. They'd be there any day of the week. They're great, noble people. See, as their Twitter feed says, they're fighting fascism. That's what they were doing by drumming Cruz out. And how are they fighting fascism? Well, see, they're upset because apparently Cruz doesn't believe survivors. They believe survivors. If you watch the little video, I'll link the site below. They tell you over and over that they believe survivors. See, so to them, it's fighting fascism, because what fascism is to them, they're fighting the notion of innocent until proven guilty. That to them is fascism. Do you understand that? Do you see what's happening here? If you're someone who says, hey, the burden of proof's on the accuser, everyone should be seen as innocent until proven guilty, you're a fascist. You are a rape apologist unless you believe every accuser. It doesn't matter if they have evidence. It doesn't matter if they can't remember most of the details. It doesn't matter if their story changes. As soon as they make the accusation, that other person's guilty and they have to prove their innocence. And now, according to Smash Racism DC, if you happen to be in the same political party as that person who was accused, then you also shouldn't be allowed to have dinner in public or anything like that. Now, to Cruz's compliment, He's very polite about the whole situation. He says, God bless you to them, which is strategically smart, but probably more than I could have mustered if they were berating me and my wife like that at dinner. But yeah, to his credit, that was a good thing. But these people are nuts. Who are they? I don't care if they're paid or not. I'm sure you could look into their background and somewhere. They're probably connected to George Soros in some way, but it doesn't matter to me. They're Maxine's little minions. That's who they are. They're who the Democrats want out there. They're the extreme that the Democrats have been urging to go out and make anyone's life hell that doesn't agree with them. They're the new face of the Democratic Party. That's who they are. When Maxine said, go confront them everywhere, this is what she meant, right? When someone like Gillibrand's out there saying, we know Kavanaugh's guilty, or the woman, the congressperson from Hawaii, when she's out there saying she knows Kavanaugh's guilty because the way he's made judgments. So that shows that his character, that he would be the type of person to abuse a woman like this. What do they think's going to happen when they're out there saying that? And there's been many more Democrats. I'm not talking about Democrats like, crazy Young Turks Democrats. I haven't seen what they say. I don't really watch them. Sure, they're probably thinking Kavanaugh's guilty. I should give him the benefit of the doubt. I shouldn't say that because I haven't watched, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking mainstream, actual Democratic politicians are like, yeah, we know Kavanaugh's guilty. Or if not that, yes, he should have to withdraw until he proves his innocence. This is insane. It's the very foundation of our country. It's the foundation of Western law, that you are innocent until proven guilty. You have the right to hear the accusation against you and defend yourself from it. Kavanaugh no one's even testified in front of the Senate as to what the accusations are. There hasn't been, no criminal bodies received an accusation, only newspapers. Ronan Farrow at the New York Times, or the New Yorker, or, the Washington Post, or Dianne Feinstein. They received letters, but there's been no testimony. But that doesn't matter. To these Democrats, he's guilty. Right? Kavanaugh's already guilty. To these protesters, you're guilty as well for defending a rapist if you don't believe the survivor. It doesn't matter that proof wasn't provided. Let's go through the three. They keep saying three women have accused. Let's go through the three. The first was this woman, Christine Ford. Ford's her last name, I believe. She doesn't remember what time this occurred. She doesn't remember where it occurred. She originally said in therapist notes that, or at least, I don't know if she said, but her therapist notes in 2012 was the first time she talked about it. So she didn't say anything for 30 years. In 2012, the therapist notes say that she said 4 boys were involved. That story's now changed to, no, it was 2 boys involved, but there were 4 boys total at the party, which is now changed to, well, actually, there were 3 boys at the party and 1 girl. And then all 4 of those people at the party have denied even being at the party. One of them, which is one of her best friends, who says, even though she believes that Ford's probably telling the truth, to this best friend's knowledge, she's never even been at a party with Kavanaugh, so she wasn't at this party with Kavanaugh. So no one to back up the allegation whatsoever. And then you got the second accuser that came out like yesterday or today from the New Yorker, which is a woman who claimed that Kavanaugh exposed himself in front of her. That claim was she also didn't say anything for 30 years. Then she was contacted by Democratic operatives. Then she called, the New York Times reported this, she actually called people, her former classmates, and said, do you remember this incident? Admitted to some of them. I'm not sure if it was Kavanaugh or not, right? But after she sat with a Democratic lawyer for 6 days, now she's confident she knows it was Kavanaugh. That's the kind of stories that we're being told, that we have to believe. We have to believe. She didn't even know herself a week ago, right, if Kavanaugh did this or not. But if we question that story, then we're rape apologists. Kavanaugh, now that she's remembered after 6 days with a Democratic operative, now who are we to question anything? Even though she questioned herself a week ago, right? 6 days ago. Who are we to question her? Obviously, he's guilty, right? Who's the third woman accusing? Well, apparently, the porn lawyer, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, who's an absolute joke, an absolute clown, he's got a woman that's going to say that Kavanaugh led gang rapes, was at parties where gang rapes of women occurred in high school. No proof given yet, but that doesn't matter to these protesters. See, the accusation is the proof, and the more accusations, no matter how unbelievable or unevidentiary they are, that's just more proof. Right? And here's another thing, right? If Kavanaugh defends himself, or if people try to defend Kavanaugh, not even defend, just ask questions of these stories, like ask some of the details, well, that's just more proof that Kavanaugh's guilty. See? Because a guilty person would try to defend themselves. So if you're asking questions, then you're a rape apologist. And if Kavanaugh tries to defend himself, well, then that's even more evidence that he's a would-be rapist. You see how this works? Guilty until proven innocent. J'accuse. This used to be what happened, and I don't make this lightly, right? This was what happened in, like, medieval times. This was you accuse someone of being a witch. Well, you torture them until they can prove they're not a witch. This is what happened in Stalin's regime, in Mao's regime, where someone was accused of being an enemy of the state, and so they were sentenced first and then had to prove their innocence. The same is in Germany, where you were accused of, Nazi Germany accused of conspiring against the Nazis. So you were arrested first, prove yourself innocent later. Now, I'm not saying that people are going to be jailed or things like that, though it could lead to that. But it's just as bad when it's being used as this political weapon. And, well, I won't say just as bad, obviously, but it's very bad where your entire life could be ruined. He could be unemployed after this. Kavanaugh, not only if these accusations are enough to judge him as guilty with no evidence, not only would he not be fit for the Supreme Court, but I'm sure he won't be allowed to continue his judgeship that he has now, right? And his family will have this cloud hanging over their head the rest of their lives, right? That'll be his public reputation. Life basically ruined, social life ruined, career ruined, right? All based on an accusation. And you know what's terrible? As bad as this is, you could almost slightly say, well, maybe it's coming from a good place. If it wasn't for two facts, right? The first fact is that it's selectively applied. These Democrats that are doing this, they won't apply it to their own people. Where's the outrage with Keith Ellison's accuser? She claims that she was attacked by Ellison. She was bruised by him. She filed police reports. She has pictures to prove it. She has text messages to prove it. Yet the Democrats aren't interested in hearing from her. Now, people will say, yes, but they did boot Franken out. One, let me say for the record, I think that Franken and Allison and Bill Clinton and everyone, Democrat or Republican, should be innocent until proven guilty. They should be given a chance to defend themselves from the accusations. And I think what happened to Franken was wrong and terrible. But the only reason the Democrats allowed that to happen to Franken was because Franken was just replaced by another Democrat. If Franken was running and would have dropped out, which would have assured a victory for the Republicans, they would have never demanded he drop out. They would have made excuses for him. And we know that because we see that's what they're doing with Ellison. And that's what they did with Bill Clinton. If it would cost them significantly politically, then they won't do anything. But if they could just get another person in, okay, well then sometimes a Democrat has to take one for the team like Franken, right? So that's the first reason. It's selectively applied. Where are these protesters outside Democrats eating, saying, why? We believe survivors. We believe accusers. Why haven't you done anything with Ellison's accuser? Strange. They don't seem to be interested in protesting the Democrats on that. Why would that be? And here's another question, point two on this. Why aren't these same protesters out there saying, why did Dianne Feinstein sit on this accusation for 6 weeks? That is unbelievably damning. The reason Feinstein sat on it for 6 weeks is because she doesn't care a lick about sexual assault, or even, I won't say that, maybe she doesn't care about possible sexual assault survivors, but she cares more about using it politically than actually getting justice behind that. Because if she cared about justice for that victim, she would have, as soon as she received that notice, she would have informed the FBI. Her excuse is so lame. Oh, I wanted to keep the woman's request to be anonymous. So what? She could have gave the information to the FBI without making her name public. And then the FBI could have done their research. What's the worst that could happen? Someone in the FBI would leak it? Well, guess what? Someone in Feinstein's office or one of the Democrats did leak it anyways. So now all you did was you put this on for 6 weeks. The FBI could have been looking into this while they were doing the background check on Kavanaugh. Instead, you put it off. And where are we now? The reason she put it off is because she's a liar and she was doing it for political points. That was the entire purpose. She didn't care that this might mean that this woman didn't get an investigation that she asked for. That didn't matter to her at all. All she wanted was to use it for political points to delay or disrupt the confirmation of Kavanaugh. Period. That's all it was about. It's absolutely disgusting. So not only are we now trending towards a world where an accusation is enough to find you guilty, but now we have that it's being selectively applied. And where are the Republicans in all this? Where's their spine? When are they to stand up and say enough's enough? Nowhere. Well, yeah, we have to hear all accusers. What incentive at this point do the Democrats have to not just parade out accuser after accuser 1 week after another? Well, we got to delay. We have to hear this one out too, right? And there's never going to be... The truth of the matter is that unless there is something incredibly damning that comes up, most of these are just someone's word against someone else. There's no confirmation whatsoever in any of these cases of like a corroborating witness, any physical evidence, things of that. All these charges are from like 30 years ago. Nothing. There's no corroborating evidence. And people say, you'll have people on the right say, this is so outrageous. If he's confirmed, then they should go back and try these women. What are they going to try them for? Those women also should be found innocent until proven guilty. Which means you would have to prove that they maliciously made this up, which is almost impossible. Even if it never happened, they could say, well, that was my recollection. I wasn't doing this maliciously. And how would you prove that's not the case? So if there's no way you're ever going to get in trouble, what's your incentive not to just come out? If you literally think like the Democrats do, like you've heard Democrats saying that, I've heard things like, if Kavanaugh gets appointed, it'll be like the Handmaid's Tale. Women's reproductive rights will be ruined. It'll be the end of women's rights as we know. If you literally thought like that and you're a woman, what incentive do you have to not just say, if you could make an accusation like this, you don't have to have any details whatsoever, and you're never going to get in trouble for it. What incentive do you have to not come out? Help your buddies at the Democratic Party. Isn't it strange that all these accusers ended up with Democratic? They all seem to be people that hated Kavanaugh and they were against Trump and against all of his positions and are working with Democratic operatives and lawyers. Isn't that strange? It just seems, and again, that's not to say maybe these women are telling the truth, but what are we supposed to think? The one woman admits her story's changed 3 times now, right? Or at least 2. She claims that when she gave the therapist notes, it was the therapist's mistake. But at least 2 times it's changed, at least from what we've seen publicly. And now she's making outrageous demands before she'll testify. If something like that happened to me, I would be chomping at the bit to tell my story in front of the Senate to keep some monster out of the Supreme Court. But no, she's making outrageous demands. I demand that I, as the accuser, speak second. Absolutely absurd. I demand that he's not allowed to question me or have his counsel question me. Absolutely ridiculous. But that's the demand she's making before she'll speak. The second woman didn't even know if Kavanaugh did it until she was coached by a lawyer for six days. Herself 2 weeks ago, before she was coached by the lawyer, also wasn't certain if Kavanaugh did this. But now to question her is this terrible thing. It's unbelievable. What are we supposed to believe? If the Republicans allow this to happen, what they should do, leave Ford testify and then have the vote Friday. And if there's some Republicans that are going to vote no, that's fine. Then he won't get confirmed. Let's get it on record, though. Right? Put the vote up. This is absurd. This is Orwellian. We're entering a very, very dangerous place. And I know the Democrats think that just like when they got rid of the filibuster, when they did the so-called nuclear option, got rid of the filibuster, so now you only need 51 votes. Well, it came back to bite them. This, too, will come back to bite them. Once you start to see accusations left and right before elections and confirmations of the Democrats, all of a sudden it'll be, oh, maybe we've created a monster. Maybe this wasn't a good thing. Luckily for them, they have all of their activists, like these ones that drummed Cruz out, right, that won't say anything. They won't go after Democrats. We know that because they're not going after them for the treatment of Ellison. And they have 90% of the mainstream media, which we know won't go after them because they're not going after them from Ellison. So I know I'm ranting a little here, and I kind of got off focus, but yeah. So Ted Cruz chased out. That's where we're at now. This is what Maxine wanted. This is what the Democrats wanted. So it's just causing more division. It's absolutely absurd. It's sad that I'll have to be on here making videos, probably that's like when the Republicans start doing this, calling them out too. But it'll be very difficult to argue from them when they say, what are we supposed to do? What's our defense? We're not allowed to defend ourselves. That means we're guilty, so we'll just use the same weapon they do. But no, I'll still stick to my morals and say, no, everyone's innocent until proven guilty. It's incredibly unethical. Even if you hate Trump, even if you hate Kavanaugh, you should reject this in the strongest possible terms. It's setting such a bad precedent. You should not endorse this by voting Democrat based on this behavior. Like, there's no one out there in the Democratic Party that I've seen. The closest it came to it, like I said, was Joe Manchin, who said, we need more than an accusation. Other than that, there's no one I've seen that stood up and been like, this is crazy. This is nuts. No one in the entire party is saying that. And so here we are. So, and also, if the Republicans don't get some nerve, what's the point of voting for them anyway? Vote third party. It's absolute nonsense. You got one party that's weaponizing sexual assault survivors, don't care a lick about them. Then you got the other party that's too spineless to stand up to this garbage. So what do we have? And don't worry, because the establishment on both sides are the same anyways. They're, pushing wars, regime change. Let's bomb Syria. Let's have conflict with Russia, right? They never saw a war they didn't like. But now even aside from that, just on the base level, we got, now one side says you're guilty just by accusing, the other side says, please don't hurt us. It's absolute nonsense. If you can't tell, I'm a little upset by it, but hey, at least my Steelers won tonight. So, hey, have a good one.